with the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible. We called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seabird.
Sunbidding goodbyes. Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. This is a platform where I'm going to talk about a lot about my transition, my experience over in combat, my ability to come back and deal with all the injuries from getting hit with a mortar round to almost losing my life, having my last rites read to me, and moving forward and being part of the Wounded Warrior Battalion West and a whole bunch of other things. Um, Today we're going to talk about my dad. We had to bury him last week on Halloween of all times, and as cynical and crazy as it gets, we as combat vets kind of take things in very unusual ways, and we kind of like maybe say some things that or do some things or show some things that maybe normally wouldn't be that way. And I think it was interesting because on Halloween I spent the day with my dad in church, and then in the graveyard with the scariest man I know, and it just kind of fit, and it took some time to think about it, and I said, hey man, what a great time to pass, if you're going to pass, is to do it and be buried on Halloween. Just a unique thing. My dad had a good sense of humor in this phase, but I'm gonna get into that, and in a little bit. I just want to throw some shout outs. I want to throw some out to citradio.com for running my podcast. I wasn't here last week because I flew in to Denver and met up with my brothers, one of my nieces, and we drove to Wyoming to spend that time with the family and my dad. But this is a platform where also sponsors, supporters, volunteers, other people that have concerning issues related to combat or related to veteran subject matter, because there's a lot of really good information that comes across in my path, whether it's because I hear about it or because I'm personally taking part in it. Whatever it is, I hope this comes out to you as a genuine kind of a platform. I often talk about things that I'm dealing with, things that I'm thinking about. And today is one of those days. Obviously, my dad, David Witthar, he was my stepdad. Spent most of my life with him in the early ages, and got a lot of really amazing stories and leadership styles and part of who I am through him. And as I think back, there's a lot of stories that I heard that I didn't put a lot of emphasis on at the time. You always hear these weird stories, maybe as you're going to bed, or you hear him talking to his friends or something like that. That kind of was an impactful, cool story. And I just kind of I want to hype into these stories a little bit because it's super important. And before I do that, I just want to say, my dad served in the United States Air Force. I didn't know much about it, but I did hear some stuff that he actually, worked on the AC 140, 130, C 130, the Jolly Green Giant that actually had the howitzers on it. So that's a platform that basically flies up and will level a grid square, a lot like the A-10s do, but the C-130 was also adapted to carry on that kind of mission and capabilities. And he just had some time to work on that as a mechanic in the Air Force. 1967 to 1970. My dad was 67 years old when he passed away. 22 years married to Carlton May Witthar. And she hosted us, and she's a great stepmom and does a lot of really amazing things. Took care of my dad up until the end, and my dad was a firefighter, of all things. A lot of different really cool things. A volunteer firefighter in Riverton, Wyoming, and Midvale Fire Department, which is out by Pavilion, which is out where I grew up as a kid, raising goats, riding cows, and did my first rodeo, Little Britches rodeo at 5 years old, and inspired by the lifestyle that I was living as a being on a ranch, kind of managing life and livestock and growing our own food and doing a lot of things that some people may not know that about me, and uh, know that the influences for that came from my father. And um, a lot of other, just passages in life that you kind of go through. He worked at Clark's Meat House, which is basically a meat packing company, and he would drive a semi truck to Denver every week, pick up a bunch of meat and from Momford and bring it back. And Clark's Meat House was a local butcher that would process the meat, and have this great place to come buy your meat if that's where you wanted to go to do that. So I learned a lot about, in general, a lot of things. I hunted, went hunting with my dad, sage grouse, deer, antelope, tons of antelope. Saw those antelope as we're driving from Denver um, to Wyoming and back with my brothers. My brother Brian Siebert, Ben Witthar. We met up with my sister Jessica Witthar. She drove all the way down from Washington, and she's a go-getter. We weren't going to go until the next day, but she's like, "Hey, why delay? Just get over here and enjoy." And she had set up an Airbnb. It was actually set up in right outside of Riverton, in kind of an area that we used to live at one point too, but um, it actually goes across this old train bridge that was absolutely incredible. It was probably built in 1903, if I'm not mistaken. The placards on there, just some crazy history, and it's actually a metal train bridge that's converted into a vehicle bridge. So it now has wooden platform to drive across it, and it creaks, and it's a long bridge. It's probably quarter mile across, uh, and it goes across the river, and it brings you over to these really nice houses that are put together for like a hunting place. It's really close to the city. I mean, not really close, but close enough. I mean, it's 5 or 6 miles outside the city, but just a beautiful area. And I'll be posting some stuff in Facebook about it. But I don't always talk about my life in this fashion, but and it's hard for me to connect. It's hard for me to kind of. I heard that my dad passed on Thursday, the week prior to his burial, and um, it took me a minute to kind of process that, and it kind of sank down in me. And the problem with it for me was that my brother Brian called me the day before that and said, "Hey, you need to call Dad. He's not doing so good." And I think I always just thought my dad was like always going to be okay and doing good, all this stuff, and I didn't want to take him that serious about it. I was like, yeah, he can't be doing that bad. But he was dealing with a lot of faced diabetes, some cancer that just he'd gone through the treatments for, and I think he was just tired and broke it down, ready to go. But he didn't, he didn't end up at a home. He was a firefighter up to a couple of years ago, and then he just retired, still on active reserve, doing all these different things. So the ceremony in a small town such as Riverton was amazing, and we'll get into that too. I'll talk a little bit about that. I know I might be all over the place, but to come together with my family was really cool, and to interact with my brothers and sisters in a way, to have my dad kind of have everything kind of him and Carlta had everything kind of mapped out. I mean, headstone was already in place. I mean, talk about being prepared. I think that's the way to do it for sure. Now looking back at or looking at this whole process, made it easy on Carlta as well. She had to deal with the family coming in, and also making sure that the ceremony and all the funeral arrangements were kind of put together. But all that was already put together for the most part, and you know we had a beautiful uh, funeral at the church, and then we traveled out to the burial or the cemetery, and another beautiful process there too. And we saw him get lowered into the ground, and then we left, and it just seemed like everything happened so fast. It's not like you could stop time, nor can we ever, right? But the problem for me was, and has been, the connection. And I really, there was a viewing at the church, and I had the opportunity to kind of see my dad come in, and it took me to my core, and I'm not used to going there, and so it was unique to feel that pain and that suffering, and that the tears came, and and I'm not used to seeing the tears come. I'm not used to being able to experience sadness. I think going to combat kind of took part of that away from me, and replaced it with like a hardened uh, wall. I kind of think of it as as I go around corners on freeways or roads or whatever it is. It's that fence, that metal fence that just says you can go off the road in all kinds of places, but here we'll catch you, or pretty close to it. You may make it all scratched up and jacked up, but you're not really going to make it through. Or you want to think like that. So I kind of associate my life with a lot of different aspects or puzzle pieces that kind of can allow me to relate to certain subjects or certain issues. But it was really nice to be able to feel like that, to break down and cry. Um, so that's something that I recommend for any length of time. But it got me. It got me for about 5 minutes, and then you always have and there was a time that I was just feeling that way, and I looked over at my brother Brian and Ben, and we were all kind of subdued, and my brother Brian, he has a way to kind of imitate people, and he kind of imitated my dad. He says, "You want something to cry about?" In a way that sounded like my dad, and it was kind of cool because that's how he was. He was kind of a tough Southern draw kind of talking guy. And matter of fact, he got the nickname on a CB radio from driving trucks and doing all this stuff. I mean, he drove all kinds of stuff: soda ash, livestock feed. He worked on the ranches in a lot of different ways throughout the years in Wyoming. If you know anything about Wyoming, I'll tell you, Wyoming's one of the least amount of populated states or populated areas on the planet. It's in the top 10 of the least populated per capita. Um, and so it's got a lot of potential for livestock hunting, really, sagebrush, almost desert looking uh, tundra type stuff, just an amazing amount of different qualities in different areas throughout the state. The super volcano is there, and that's basically a volcano that can actually destroy the planet if it re-erupts, and it has in the past. So it's really kind of a scary but cool place to be. There's a place we stop, and I think it's called Beaver Beaver Ridge Pass or something like that, and it's on the way to Wyoming to Denver, up through Laramie, and then up through Muddy Gap and some other places. But you could actually look out and you could see the remnants of this giant pit that drops down into the ground, and you can't see across to the other side of it. And it's just the area where the eruption had occurred so much that it just dropped the planet everywhere when it erupted. But over the millions of years, it's filled back into a point where it's level, a whole bunch of other really cool things. So it's a very interesting place to kind of scope out. But we stopped there often, my brother and I, my brothers, when we're going back and forth, because I usually fly into Denver and then go visit my dad sometimes. We go help him pick up all the leaves off of his house, help him do a bunch of stuff. But this guy was into everything, and he was a mechanic in the Air Force. He was a tinkerer. He really liked to mess with a lot of things. He was a an engineer, not just an engineer like you hear, but a steam engine engineer. And to have that engineering background, and super important, super dangerous, because you're dealing with basically a high pressure explosive device that's going to steam its way through power and maneuvering so that it doesn't blow itself up. So super dangerous piece of gear. But he grew up in Missouri. Um, he is his uncles and family had built like crazy cool scaled down trains, or scaled down tractors, or steam engines. And my dad has one 1/16. You could sit on it, and it's a little tiny tractor. It looks like a little John Deere lawn tractor, but in a steam engine build. And he would always use this at parades. But he's a big John Deere fan too. He has 2 John Deere tractors. Uh, some old John Deeres. I think I probably have this wrong. I think it's 38, and the other one's a 1932, something like that. But there's some old John Deere tractors that he founded and helped out with the Wind River Flywheelers tractor club. And they have an old case that talk about history, and being able to see some American history, and being a part of that, or being involved in it, or being able to touch it, or tangibly know people that are working in that history to keep it alive in some fashion. Just sit there and drive the tractor around the block with no problem. No one's gonna bother you because it's Wyoming. Just random cool things. And so that just kind of soaks me into some of my proud moments. The firefighting piece, throwing candies to kids when we go to the volunteer fire department, and there's 24 stairs to the second floor, and it's just really weird, cool stuff. And the fire pole is there, and this old fire engine that they bring out. And then they have certain days where pancake breakfast day, and hot air balloons, and it's really a smaller place. So you talk about a small town. It's it's about the size of like Kingman, Arizona, to some of these other smaller towns. But the community is different. The feel is different. The sense of community is different. A lot of people helping each other out. A lot of things moving forward in really cool directions. But I don't know. Wyoming's pretty slow to grow. I grew up, 400,000 people were in that state. I think it's sitting at about 500,000 now. So that's a pretty long time, and little to no growth, which is good. It's good. It's good for that state, and it's because it holds on to its traditions and values and places. So just thinking back, that this is my dad's last, obviously he didn't make it to Veterans Day. So last year was his last Veterans Day. And he's a proud guy. He actually did a whole bunch of woodworking stuff, model trains, some of the woodworking projects he put together. He built all these little miniature cars. And I took him to 1st Marine Division, and said, hey, my dad would like to give these little wooden cars out to the families, and those coming back for their kids to have like this cool toy that's built from an American, for the purpose of patriotism, or just the love of and the support that he wanted to give to our military members. And I was happy to get a set of these cars myself. Just wooden wheels and wooden, just the whole wooden feel to it, that just well built and American built. So you got to love America for what it is, what it should be, and it should represent that freedom that we so often talk about, fight for, and whatnot. And with a lot of things that are going on, I sometimes look at it like America still holds super awesome value deep down into the core but there are those that are seriously trying to destroy it. There are people in our country that don't love it. They're not there for the right reasons. They got in there somehow, not even legally. But it's more like a giant industry right now. I'd like to, say, hey, being from Wyoming, Wyoming's not an industry. It's a place that's feeding the country. It's a place that's helping out the country. It moves cattle, massive amounts of cattle throughout the state, throughout different areas, and feeds the world on different levels too. It provides a lot of fuel and natural gas, a whole bunch of things, mines that you can't find anywhere else on the planet, or very few places. So there's a lot of things that you look at, and the core of it all. My dad was a heartbeat of America, and to me, he felt like that. A lot of America feels like it's a giant industry. Just there's too big of a market to close those borders, or there's too big of a market for this or that, and it's not even in the right direction. And you got people marching down the streets of all the major cities or whatever, and you got tons of people that are patriotic, that are working their butts off in this country day in and day out. They don't have time to march down the streets to do those things, but somebody does. Somebody who doesn't care to go to work, somebody who doesn't care about this country. My dad cared. My dad still cares. He cared all the way to the end. He worked hard. He played hard. He drove trucks. He helped people out, and he volunteered at that fire department, fighting fires, training guys, setting up training programs. Amazing stuff. But he learned that he got that nickname Slowpoke because he just wanted to take his time, do it right, and enjoy life. Took us fishing all the time in the Tetons, or close to it. Got to look at the Tetons all the time, going fishing, and the pinnacles. Wyoming's got some beauty in it that's out of this world. So I just wanted to kind of post up and say that, and kind of give you my feelings on losing a member of my family, but somebody who served in the country. And the last thing I kind of want to say is I want to go back to John Witthar, which is his dad. And this is kind of a story that really kind of upset me, because my grandfather was in the process of passing away, and I was able to go out and visit him. But I just came back. I was blown up. I just came back, and I was wearing a boot. I was just trying to get around, and I was dealing with different orders and different things. And sometimes, it's like I know I need to be at a certain place, a certain time, and I have this personal responsibility, and orders are orders, and I got to take them seriously. But I will say, I did everything I could to spend a little bit more time with my grandfather. But what happened was they executed some orders on me that said, hey, your TAD orders came in. You have to check in on this date down in San Diego at the holding area. And I called that area and I said, hey, I'm on leave. Can I still remain on leave until that leave ends and then check in? And they're like, no, you have to check in down here. And it's TPU, temporary processing unit, which is basically, I went there, I checked in. I said, hey, look, I want to go right back to Wounded Warrior Battalion West, which is where I was at, and do what I do, help out combat vets, help out this. And they did. They gave me TAD orders right back, but they made me leave my grandfather for the last time that I was going to see him. And then I flew back out for his funeral. But I had some very bitter feelings about that, because I'm trying to just, it wasn't mandated. It wasn't something I had to do, but because the orders were cut, I had to do it. And that's just one of those upsetting times. But I remember leaving my grandfather, and I gave him a hug, and he says to me in some terms that says, now you can understand. And he was a World War II veteran, that infantry, army. And he says, now you understand, like in a way that said, the weight of everything that I'm carrying doesn't have to be that crazy anymore, because I can have a conversation with you on a level that is equal to a combat vet having a combat vet talk. And I think it just gave me that breath of fresh air that I've never that you don't get very often or something, or you're able to just kind of relax your thoughts because you're able to have a deeper conversation or relate to something that's equal to or greater than or with somebody else who has those same kind of memories or thinking or processes or weight. But it was a very cool moment, probably the best. And I've always had some really good times. My grandfather took me on horseback 10 miles. I mean, we camped 10 miles for like 7 to 12 days up in the mountains of Colorado one time when I was young. I was about 12 years old and was able to ride on horseback up there and just camp and fish, see bears live on the side of the banks, and just live it up as a mountain man for a minute, and really appreciate the moments. So I just wanted to reflect on some of that because I don't often get so in tune with my personal feelings on things, but I feel like it's a good time to kind of break it down in that fashion, and maybe it'll give you some insight as to kind of how I kind of walk in my life and move forward and try to gather my thoughts and put them into directions that are good. But hey, I'll leave it at that. But yeah, Dave Witthar, that's my stepfather and my father. I had my nieces there, my brother Ben, Brian, Jessica, my sister, my nieces Gabby, Rochelle, and Danny. Carlton's his wife. She's working hard to put things together, and I appreciate her. I appreciate her efforts to reach out, and she broke it down to me. She was the first one to call me about this and tell me the story. So he just kind of fell down and said he was tired and he was done, and the ambulance was called. Worked on him for about a half an hour, but got him to the hospital and pronounced him there. But yeah, that's what I want to tell you, and I'm thankful for this platform to kind of tell a story and memorialize it. And I know Veteran Days is coming up, and I'm sorry he's not going to be here with us, but the spirit will be. And I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate having this opportunity. This is Aaron Siebert, retired Navy Chief, signing off. Until next time, strength and honor, out.
Under blue skies, the only way, like the sun bidding goodbye.